Recap the three-game trip. The home opener tomorrow night against Anaheim. Brian Startare, FlyerDelphia.com, takes a look back at the opening three games of this Flyers season. And we just got news, Bri, that Michael Raffl out 10 days for that hit last night, and we'll get into that as well. But give us a little overview. They beat the Kings. They scored 4. They lose that game in overtime to Arizona. And then last night, just a wild night. But if anything, they've shown different from last year early on. They can put the puck in the net.
Yeah, they are scoring, which was one of the concerns, Mike, coming into the season. So it's a good thing that they are scoring some goals out there. But the flip side is they're letting too many in over 4 a game right now when you average it out. So something's got to give in there. But you're right. Over the first 3 games, if you've watched the Flyers over a certain period of time, you can tell that they're playing at a much faster rate than they did in previous years. And a lot of that has to do with, again, with the influx of the youth, which is really a young man's league. And you had said Provorov and Konecny, especially last night. Of course, Provorov had a very difficult game, a -4 last night. But the overall team speed is much better. And I agree with you, Mike. They seem like a little bit better of an entertaining brand of hockey. Got to clean some things up on their own end, and especially in between the pipes.
Yeah, you mentioned, they're giving up goals, and you thought with Provorov, and then the goaltending seemed like it had been nailed down a little bit more. I don't know what the goalie situation is because Neuwirth starts on opening night, then he gets to start again last night. I mean, is he their guy? I know they don't have a guy, but they went to him first, and then he plays last night. You wonder where this goalie story is already starting to be going off the rails a little bit.
Well, the old situation was if you have 2 goalies, you have none. You're going back and forth. Of course, Neuwirth played so well in the postseason last year, and then, they kind of alternated back and forth. It looks as though they're going to be alternating, although you think that Steve Mason, the guy with the most money, doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be the starter. I think when you go through the NHL, you always need 2 goalies throughout the season. You just wait till you get the hot hand. Mason is supposed to be a number 1 goaltender. Came in relief last night, played particularly, better than he did in his start in Arizona. But again, I thought that Neuwirth played so well last year against Washington that you have 2 top-flight goalies. It's better than the situation had used to be, but that's going to have to be a situation that's going to have to play out, Mike. There's no crystal ball answer on that right now. So whoever gets hot, I think then Hextall will start to make decisions accordingly.
Hey, what's your take on Raffl going out? It looks like Reed's going to get promoted again. This guy keeps, he had a rough year last year. 3 games in, he's already moving up the depth chart once, now twice.
Yeah, well, he's had a couple rough years. I mean, they blamed it on the injury a couple seasons ago, and last year, obviously, his scoring was down. It's nice to see that Matt Reed, buried on the 4th line to begin the season, moved up to the 3rd. You would thought that with Schenn coming back after his suspension that he'd be moved up to the 1st line, but you're going to see some different kind of line combinations now with Raffl out for 7 to 10 days with that upper body injury. But it's nice to see Matt Reed. I mean, you look at that $3.75 billion contract, kind of an albatross, the kind of Flyers. Wasn't a guy that was able to be moved if they were even thinking about that. Needed more production. You think about Giroux, Simmons, and Voracek, almost 38% of the goals last season. The Flyers needed more help from guys like Reed and Couturier. And so far, they're their 2 leading scorers goal-wise with 3 apiece. So nice to see Matt Reed get the jump up there, be in the right position, as well as Sean Couturier. That's a good sign for the offense.
All right, FlyerDelphia.com. Brian Startare with us, concluding the Flyers' 3-game, 8-day road trip out west. They have the home opener tomorrow night, but a couple of interesting storylines with this team moving forward early on where they scored goals, but they're going to get Schenn back. They're going to get Gudas back to help the defense, Del Zotto as well. But Ron Hextall, he's going to have a couple tough decisions to make. How do you see this kind of playing out over the next couple of weeks with a lot of talent still on the mend?
Well, when Schenn comes back, obviously tomorrow, it's going to be a big influx because Schenn, remember, he was one of the physical leaders and one of the best players in the Flyers Capital Series. And, this was a turning point for Ron Hextall. Remember before the Flyers were very quick to trade some of their younger guys or be a little less patient at the deadline. They had a turning point there. They had a crossroads with Braden Schenn in the offseason. They signed him to a new deal. So he's another guy that fits that deal. I think that, your best players obviously have to be your best players. And guys like, Van de Velde and Cousins and and so forth are going to find their ways on the outside looking in once the guys get back into the lineup. So I think I hate the cliche, Mike, but it's a good problem to have more players available to you. You're always going to have injuries, so generally you're not even going to talk about this throughout the season because one time or another somebody's going to get hurt, somebody's going to get banged up, next guy up in there, but that's a good problem to have with guys going back forward. Interesting, to see how Dave Haxtell handles that. I thought, scratching Nick Cousins last night, kind of a surprise. But we'll see what happens back and forth as the season progresses.
Hey, give me your early take on Voracek because he did not have a great season last year. Does he look more involved? Does he seem like a little different of a player than he was? Like last year, it was a lot of injury talk, and I don't know. But after he signed that deal, he did not live up to it.
Well, I like him on that new line. I do. I still think he's a little bit tentative in the offensive zone, but I think he knows that he has to have a better start. I mean, last year, he didn't get his first goal until, the 17th game? It was quite a while, and he started to turn it on towards the end. Voracek is the second highest paid player on this team. I know all of a sudden it doesn't automatically translate into results as it should sometimes, but it should be. Again, you need your best players. I look at Voracek. I think he has a little bit more of a stride in his step this year. He does look a lot faster. I think he's a little lighter than he was last year. Hard to say, Mike, after 3 games, but Jake Voracek needs to be one of the best Flyers, and I think he's going to have a much better season than he did last year.
Brian Startare, FlyerDelphia.com. Tomorrow night should be a very emotional night. Ed Snyder obviously passed in April. They'll have a special tribute, and I'm sure there will not be a dry eye in that house. And you wonder, the Flyers coming home after this 3-game trip, what kind of thing the Flyers have planned there. But I know you've done a lot with the Flyers over the years, and I'm sure had some dealings with the organization. And then when Mr. Snyder passed, you wonder where this team moves on this year. Like, is it a different feeling around there? Are things different around this organization?
Well, it can't help but to be different. And the sad part about it is it's going to be different. It's going to be more of a corporate stamp as well, obviously with Comcast owning the team. The Flyers, they do ceremonies great. They do pomp and circumstance. And this being the 50th year, you're going to have a lot of heritage nights. You're going to celebrate the captain, the players, the successes of years past. But it can't help to be a different atmosphere without Ed Snyder. You're talking about, by and large, I know it's been 40+ years since the Flyers won a championship, but you could arguably say, and I would say this, that he's been the best owner in Philadelphia sports. And again, it's going to be different around the organization, but I still think the Flyers will be a class organization. They'll still treat their players with the way they have under Ed Snyder's leadership and ownership. But again, it can't help but to be different. But I think they're going to be okay. I think there's a lot of great people in place. I think Ron Hextall has the right mindset of this patience and building this team. I know patience is a tough word to say in Philadelphia, especially when you haven't had that ultimate success in so many years. But I think this team is absolutely on the right track. And I was just discussing this with this morning, was saying that, I still think they're probably a bubble to a last part of a playoff team this year. But you can see the young guys coming in. You can see the prospects on the line. And you can see the amount of money that's going to be available. This team is not going to be afraid to spend money. That won't change like it did under Ed Snyder.
Brian Startare, FlyerDelphia.com. Flyers tomorrow night take on Anaheim in the home opener. All right, Brian. Take care, pal.
Hey, Mike. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. See you soon.